Thursday night at home against Louisville, and then they obviously beat Oklahoma as a double-digit dog in the season opener that year, Herman's last season at Houston, and he's had some good dog casters at Texas. So he's traditionally been very good as a dog. But I've been so impressed this season with the job Lincoln Riley has done with Kyler Murray. I mean, I knew Kyler Murray was a great athlete, but we knew he could run probably better than, or could definitely run better than Mayfield. But I did not think that he was going to have this type of year passing, which is just a testament to how the greatness, and I'm not exaggerating it, the greatness of Lincoln Riley. I mean, this guy is so good. And Murray's putting up numbers nearly equivalent to Mayfield's numbers last year, and their offense is absolutely churning along. And I lean Oklahoma here. I just think they're a vastly superior team. I know the loss of Anderson wasn't good, but the way they pass the ball, and they got running backs, they're fine there. So I lean Oklahoma here, and it's probably going to be one of my plays, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it quite yet.
I haven't pulled the trigger on this one yet either. Some people are even looking at the over in this game, saying that Ellinger can get in a shootout here, like we've seen before with these two teams. The thing about Tom Herman, he did upset Oklahoma. He has the formula to beat this type of an offense somehow. If you look at what Oklahoma played, they played Florida Atlantic, which I was way too high on coming to the season. They played.
So was I.
We all were. They played UCLA, and we've seen what UCLA has done. They went to Iowa State, and Iowa State's kind of a team. And
without their quarterback.
Yep. And won by only 10. Then they go to overtime against a triple option Army, and then they get back to Baylor and make things right. But you got to remember Baylor's defense is terrible, right? And so I look at the schedule. I'm like, well, Texas is a little bit more battle tested here. The fact that they played Maryland and lost, I think that helps them, not let down anywhere. They beat USC, made them look bad. They beat TCU and as a dog. What you said about Tom Herman in a dog roll makes me scared of taking Oklahoma here. This seems like it feels like a trick almost. I'm not saying I'm going to take Texas, but if that thing gets over 10, I might have a little personal play on this myself. So I guess that's...
Man, you're talking me out of the Sooners, buddy. You're making some great points, man. You're right. Oklahoma's schedule has been pretty garbage. Although I do think that Army team is pretty decent. Well, hence that blowout with Buffalo.
Right.
We were talking about the Bulls earlier.
Right. Absolutely, my man. Well, that was definitely one to talk about here. So I think the over is definitely something I would lean towards right now. But if you're going to take that, I would say get it now. That thing's going to shoot up, and you might even get some good line value. Take it as early as possible. Well, let's get into another game in the neck of your woods. Well, closer anyway. Was once, one of the top games, but you got a Florida State team that is just way more disappointing than, it's for the second year in a row. Everyone was high on them again, and they look absolutely terrible. They got lucky a little bit against Louisville, as we saw. And then you have the Miami team, has that one loss, but it's kind of been rolling a little bit since, yet benefit a little bit from all those turnovers last game. What do you think about Florida State versus Miami at Hard Rock Stadium?
Oh, I just love that I can accurately call this a scrub game. That's what I love about it. I love my Gators, but I love whoever's playing FSU just as much. Now, I normally hate the Canes, but I do listen to them in this game. But, these are two go-against teams in my mind. I know FSU has covered back-to-back weeks, but that was a miracle last week. And what the hell was Bobby Petrino doing? He gets the people say greatest of all time is the GOAT these days. When I say the GOAT, I'm talking about the D-bag, if you will. Forgive my language. But I thought that Petrino could have got that second place to James Franklin last week with that horrible 4th and 5 call by him. But you look at Miami and man, they're kind of like Oklahoma in the points you were making. They really haven't played anybody yet other than LSU. And again, I just think these are bet against teams, so I'm certainly not going to play the Canes laying that many points. And, maybe FSU's got a little confidence, look, I haven't been impressed with FSU the last 2 weeks, but, there is something to always be said to get in the win column, and especially when you've got a team with horrible chemistry, which they have dating back to, like, October of last season, and all the arguing on the sidelines at Syracuse and that debacle. I mean, I had Syracuse for a good chunk of money, and I hate the Noles, and that football was so horrible, I was miserable. I mean, I should have been enjoying myself making money and rooting against the Noles, and I was so miserable watching that game. Such awful football.
I remember you tweeting about that.
Yeah, it was brutal, man. It was brutal. But, I guess if I had to pick this, I would probably slightly lean to the Noles. But I'm sorry to be a fence sitter on these games we're talking about, but I just don't have a pick for this one. Again, two teams that are teams to go against. The over is 4-1 overall for Miami this year. I will point that out.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a game I'm definitely probably not going to touch. It's Florida State. If they lost last week, I might lean the Noles a little bit more, but this is an ugly game. It's a rivalry. I don't see any value in that line. A lot of unpredictableness because, you don't know what's going to happen with the Florida State's prone to turnovers. They're prone to penalties. Hell, that Syracuse Florida State game, I should have took the over in penalties that game. It was so awful, and I don't know what to expect here. There seems to be a ton of variance. So I'm siding with you here. Why bother getting invested in a 14-point spread here? There's plenty more options out there. But I'm sure you're going to be ready to talk about this game because this is one of the biggest ones that I've been circling and can't wait to watch whether I have any side on it or not. LSU versus the Gators. Gators given 2.5 points in the Swamp, Florida Field in Gainesville. I thought about this one. It opened up at 3.5, and I'm like, are the sharp bettors going to knock this down yet, or they're going to wait till the public jumps all over LSU? Because I think LSU's overrated a little bit, and maybe Florida's a little bit overrated. They seem to benefit by turnovers a lot. But, then all of a sudden it gets hit, and it's down at 2.5 right now. How are your Gators looking here?
I made LSU -2, and I made the total 46.5. Let's remember, Florida did not have David Reese, their star linebacker, the first 3 games. He sprained his ankle late in camp. And so, I don't think Kentucky I don't know if they would have rushed for 200 yards, much less 300 and change like they did against the Gators when David Reese was out. And C.C. Jefferson was also out for the first 2 games. Since those guys have come back, the defense has looked much better. They basically, the both of them, were back, starting the Tennessee game, and that was when the defense was just going nuts. They got the safety. They were creating turnovers in the first half. Granted, it's Tennessee, which might give I can't even rag on Kansas too bad. They got a couple of wins, but Tennessee's one of the worst Power 5 teams out there. But the Gators are getting some confidence. Look, I don't trust Felipe Franks as far as I can throw him. I mean, if you look at his stats, they actually look pretty good. I think Mullen gets a lot of credit for that, but I think he will make more mistakes than Burrow. But, man, you've got to like the way Ja'Kai Polite and Jabari Zuniga are getting after the quarterback the last few weeks for the Gators. Mm-hmm. And I love how the Gators defense is looking. Joe Burrow, I think he's gotten a lot of criticism, and I will admit that I was watching the Florida game and didn't see much of the first half against Auburn when I heard Danielson talking about it most of the second half. Apparently he missed a lot of throws in the first half, and I wasn't watching that. But I don't think you need to look at Burrow's stats, except for these 2. He's undefeated, and he hasn't thrown an interception yet this year. But his stats aren't pretty because LSU's LSU. They're going to run the football, and especially when they're up 33-3, against Miami early in the third quarter, they're going to run the football. And, his stats weren't pretty, and those 2, let down or sandwich spots against La Tech and Southeast Louisiana. But, I think Burrow's improving this week. He gives you a little bit of a scrambling dynamic. I mean, not the biggest speedster, but he can definitely make some plays with his legs. I give LSU the edge at the quarterback position. I give Florida the edge in the head coaching department. Kim, I think it's just a toss-up game, and I got enough heart and pride involved in this one. So yet again, another pass for me, but I'll be glad to talk about some games that I like here in a minute.
All right. Well, absolutely. You know, I question if LSU is not taking Florida as serious and then going to Georgia at home. They're facing Georgia next week, but you know I mean, these teams have some bad blood, LSU and Florida, so it's kind of hard to tell. You got to be impressed for what Mullen's been doing over there. I think Florida's definitely been overachieving from what we thought coming into the season. That's got to be a bright spot on for what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't trust Franks, and the O-line has been it's been okay. But like you said on the rivalry, we touched on the rivalry yet. You know, LSU and Florida have always had a nice, respectful, healthy rivalry with both fan bases reserving their vitriol for other targets. You know, for Florida, you know, more so FSU and Georgia and even Auburn when we used to play them every year, etc. But Joe Leva changed all that with that BS narrative he was putting out a couple years ago with that hurricane. It was just such nonsense from a guy who does not have the best reputation anyway, and he made this rivalry into a bit of a bitter one. You know, 2 years ago, a little pregame scuffle, the Gators shockingly win, and then last year, Eddie Pinheiro, who was as good as any kicker in the country last year, misses the only extra point. I'm pretty sure it's the only extra point he missed his whole time at Florida, and that ended up being the difference in a 1-point game.
Yeah, absolutely. The strangest thing about this game is both teams we were low on, I think, and they are definitely achieving a lot more than we thought. So props to Ed Orgeron for that. And we'll see if this continues. If this thing gets above 3 is when I'm probably going to be interested in it, but definitely not now at 2.5. Well, hey man, what do you got going on? Let's see if we can give our listeners a little bit more value than some of the tough games that I've been throwing out.
Oh yeah, no, I've enjoyed talking about those games. I just don't have a strong opinion on them. I like Auburn minus 3.5. This week. This is a mess in Starkville. And I mean, boy, did this thing turn on a dime, and I'm as guilty as anyone of my judgment on Mississippi State. I had them all the way up to number 10 in my power rankings, which I shouldn't say out loud. Going into the game at Kentucky, I just thought that, you know, with the way that Keaton Thompson, the backup quarterback, had played in the opener and outplayed Lamar Jackson in the bowl game last year, and Keelan Hill, stepping in with Eris Williams, the running back, was either in Moorhead's doghouse or a little banged up the first couple of weeks. I was like, man, they're even better than I thought in the summer. Now they've got, pretty much a backup quarterback and a backup running back that look like total studs. And speaking of Thompson, do not be shocked at all if there's a quick hook on Nick Fitzgerald this week from Moorhead. All the built-in, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but, all the good stuff Fitzgerald's done the last couple of years, he did that with a different coach.
Right.
Moorhead is already, he's already feeling the heat down there, man. And a loss here would be disastrous because they would have 2 weeks to stew on it, and then a date in Baton Rouge waiting on you to go below 500 in a year that had such high expectations. So I just really like Auburn's defense. Right now they are third in the nation in scoring defense. And I'm trying to find my doggone. I think it's 12.8 points per game they're giving up, as I've suddenly not able to find my Auburn State notes, which I have.
12.6. Auburn gives up 12.6 points per game.
Here it is. It was in my other notebook. Yeah. And Auburn's 7-4-1 against the spread as a road favorite during Malzahn's tenure. In the last 2 years, they've beaten up on the Bulldogs 49-10 and 38-14. I think confidence is an issue with Mississippi State. And despite Auburn's so performance, obviously, last week against Southern Miss, which was